All right, thanks for joining. Hey, look, shut your mouth. Shut your whore mouth, and you wait for me to finish.
I didn't know who was doing the intro today.
Jesus. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us. This is the Kill Cliff Podcast. This is Josh and John from Entrepreneurs Comedy. Today we got on Mike Day. Tell me a little something about Mike.
Can I talk now?
And begin.
Hey, guys, thanks for tuning in. We got Senior Chief Mike Day, retired Navy SEAL. If you know that name, it's because this cat is one bad mofo. And if you've watched any of his other interviews, he'll tell you he's not a bad mofo because he was born that way. He kind of a tough upbringing, and then this cat got shot 27 times on one single firefight in Iraq. 16 to his body, 11 to his body armor, and has faced and cheated death a number of times. This guy had 8 cutaways or 9 cutaways, I think, from his when he was on the Navy parachute team, from his parachute failing to open. And anyway, and then he goes on, if that's not enough, he goes on to be a patient advocate at the SOCOM Wounded Warrior Care. Anyway, just a great story of resilience and tenacity and humility. Mike's a super humble guy, and we're excited to talk to him today, kind of get a little deeper into his story and maybe find some of the levity in it. I'm done now, Josh.
I feel like the whole podcast is over now. Yeah, Mike's a funny guy. Gets dark. I messed that up.
Yeah, you messed it up. Fucking. All right. Anyway, it's going to be a good one, we think. So tune in. If nothing else, you'll watch Josh and I slap each other around.
Real nice.
Let's get this thing going.
I love the name of your podcast.
Let the boy watch.
It was like every 80s rock video.
Crafting with strawberry milk.
Good luck to me.
If I said that without making eye contact, it would have been way better.
This is our intern, Tyler.
So no one listening yet anyways. This guy sucks. The juice is flowing.
Maybe just whack him across the face with a corn cob.
It's going to go great. Thank you.
All right, Mike. Hey, thanks for joining us today, man. We appreciate your time here on this Saturday morning. And we know you're a busy guy, so thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, so we know you've told this story 1,000 times, and if any of our listeners want to, you can look up Mike Day, Navy SEAL, on YouTube, and you can see the intricacies of the story. You can watch it told 10 different ways, and you'll hear Mike tell a different part of that story each time. Mike, if you can just give us just the at the risk of trivializing it, if you can give us like the 3-minute version or your favorite parts of the story. And then I know from watching other interviews of you, there actually is some really funny parts. And again, it's that sort of macabre sense of humor, right? When you're facing death and you come out on the other side and you're like, holy shit.
There is. And people that are in those lines of work, it just seems like a natural thing to acquire that. You know, you talk to doctors. I hated my urologist. He was used to dealing with people that were passed out. That guy had no bedside manner at all. But yeah, people that ride around in ambulances, you know, when you see what would be considered terrible things a lot, there's humor has been always a natural way for me to deal with that stuff. So.
Right. Yeah. And there's actually science that says it's therapeutic and it's a catharsis when you're able to laugh about it, even if it's a sick sense of humor. There's science that says doctors, nurses, EMTs, firefighters, cops, you know, and military, that like their ability to laugh at the insanity, it not only creates group cohesion, but it allows you it keeps you from crying yourself to sleep at night when you can laugh at some of the silly shit, right?
I mean, sometimes. Just not like a little girl incessantly, but
I told you, Josh.
But yeah, well, I can't help it. I'm an emotional guy. But yeah, definitely I know we've talked about it before. Our default mode is always been humor when things aren't going right. It's always, that's just how we deal with shit. So that especially, sometimes, especially when we're around military guys, the darker the better. That's what really, and finding that group of people that can appreciate that can be tough. But
I think it's misinterpreted. I think it's misinterpreted that we actually like the stuff that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And you do. You ever watch Sebastian Junger's TED Talk?
No, I don't
No,
think
I
I did.
haven't.
that dude was able to explain my emotions better than I could. So Sebastian Younger is like a combat journalist. He's done some cool stuff. I actually tried to get him to write my book with me.
Oh, that's cool.
He was a little out of my league.
Hey, well, before we get into it, let's so everyone knows. Let's start walking through a quick brief of your story, so we can find the dark side and the humor and all that stuff on the other end.
Well,
So you're in Iraq in 2007, and kind of take us through from there.
That's the amazing part about it is that's the eye catcher. That's why people want to listen to what I have to say, is because what happened to me in Iraq, and to me that's pretty insignificant in my life. It was more traumatic to people around me than it was to me. So I got shot 27 times. I took 16 rounds to the body, and I took 11 rounds to the body armor. And honestly, I think those hurt worse. And luckily, I only got shot in 2 bones. That makes a big difference. So got into a gunfight.
The other 14 shots that went in your body went into flesh. And for those who don't know, you want to talk about like the difference between going to the bone and going to the flesh.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. Once it hits bone, it starts going different directions. The bone becomes fragmented, starts cutting arteries. But I mean, I had a round that ran up my inside of my right thigh, didn't hit my femur, and it didn't hit my. It should have popped my femoral artery. It ran right up, right next to it. And anybody knows anything about ballistics, it's really not what the bullet's doing in front. It's all that energy it's pulling behind it, and all that cavitation. That should have popped all my veins, all my arteries. And I got shot both legs. I had a round go clean through the scrotum, separate my vas deferens. I got shot twice in the butt, and we'll talk about a story. The funniest thing that's happened to me in my life, I think, is that one of those bullets eventually migrated itself all the way up to my stomach, and I had my friends cut it out.
Oh, Jesus. So let's
let me go,
set the scene here.
Let's walk backwards a little bit. Yeah. Only because, and it's funny to hear you kind of like skip forward. You're like, well, I mean, I got shot 27 times. And again, not that you're minimizing it, but so take us through, you're in Iraq and you're going into a very hot area. Your team, or your platoon from, you're at what? You're SEAL Team 3? I was
at SEAL Team 4.
You're at 4. Yeah. You guys are going in. You're in Ramadi, is that, or no? You're in Anbar.
Those Ramadi is in Anbar. We did some stuff in Ramadi, but we were tasking Fallujah at the time.
Okay, so and I remember hearing you say it in another interview. So you're trying to get in there a couple days before the actual incident that where you got hit. And you guys are trying to get in. It's a hot area. The guy had shot down 2 helicopters, right? Killed everybody on board. So
it's actually 4.
Oh, 4 helicopters.
Yeah. There's
so you guys
and a lot of small, like crazy, just ironies. Like one of the officers in my platoon, Chris Till, went through the academy, and one of the pilots that was killed was a chick that was lived across the hall from him at the academy.
So it becomes a little personal.
Yeah. So there's 3 degrees of separation somehow. It's always a small world.
All right. So you're explain exactly the time you're getting shot. How's this, like, set the scene for us so the people that don't know your story can get some background. Again, you said you're most known for this, for getting shot, and we'll get into all the other stuff, but I think for a lot of people, that story seems insane. I mean, I wouldn't want to be shot 27 times with an airsoft gun. So if you could just walk through on what happened and
how did you find yourself in the doorway getting shot 27 times?
Okay. And you guys are going to have to help me out with this. I go off on tangents. I told you I didn't even answer the last one. So, yeah, we did. We went after this target like 3 nights prior, and we got IED'd on the way in. Clark Schwedler, 27-year-old SEAL on his second deployment, was the gunner in the rear vehicle, and that vehicle got hit. Nobody got hurt. We actually drove out of there, Didn't even disable the vehicle. But 3 days later, when we did the stop, Clark Schwedler was killed in action on target. He took one round to the neck.
And that was from the same guys that were shooting at you at the same time. Is that right?
All the guns in the house were in the room I went into. It was too crazy of a place to try to drive back into. Pretty much one way in, one way out. It was just too channelized. We're really lucky that nobody got hurt on that IED. We should have known better. We should have flown in to begin with. So 3 days later, we flew in, did a little standoff, had some chatter from overhead that told us that there might be people listening to us. So we went from our target package that night. We were supposed to hit 4 buildings, 4 structures. We decided to just hit the primary one. We get up there, breach the first door, mechanical breach. Clark's actually in that breach team. So that opens up into a room that doesn't have access to anywhere else in the house. And I get over the comms, hey, short room, which means we got to find another door. I'm already on another door. So I kick that door open, opens up to a small foyer. There's 2 doors in that room, one on the left wall, one on the far wall. And the way they're situated is if you open them both, you can see from one corner of the one room all the way through both doors to the corner, another corner in the other room. So I get in there, and half of the assault team is Iraqi scouts that we trained. And that was our job over there, is teach them how to do it so we can get out of there. Get in that room. They didn't split the train. I was holding on 2 doors. I was waiting for somebody to split the train for me.
Splitting the train, meaning half of you guys come on one door, the other half guys pick up the other door. So for those who are listening, the train meaning the trail of guys. No, you're good. You're good. For the trail of guys that are coming in behind you to bring the rest of the cavalry.
Correct. So I was holding on 2 threats. And the Iraqi scouts were all behind me. No other SEALs. They were all still outside. It was a pretty small foyer. And Clark came from the room that he breached, mechanically breached, all the way back through the carport, through the room, did what we call a head check, saw that I was waiting for one of these retards to do something they were supposed to. And he got in there, and they were like, oh, okay. Now we split the train. So the train split, and we both simultaneously popped both those doors. We didn't just open the door. And mine was right corner fed room. The door hit the wall. I saw the whole right wall was clear. And I was coming off my pivot foot to go down the left wall, and they started shooting me. I entered that room.
And you say that's from inside the room. This is where these knuckleheads are.
Yeah, it's a small room. It's like 12 by 12 or so.
Yeah.
And there's 4 guys in there. 2 of them had AK-47s. One had a pistol and one had an M4. They had equipment from an ambush, actually out on an army unit in Ramadi. They had his helmet, his night vision goggles, his rifle, his LBE, his load bearing equipment, his magazines still had his name on them.
Oh, wow. So they had ambushed another U.S. Army unit, and then had actually gone to the length of taking all of that soldiers.
Not only had they shot down 4 helicopters, which were all medevac helicopters, and a unit out in Hawaii, but they had equipment from an ambush where they killed, I don't know how many people they killed, but they had his equipment, and I got shot with it. The green tip actually penetrated deeper than any of the AK rounds.
Really?
Yeah. See, all the AK rounds that hit my plates, it stopped it. I got hit 3 times in the chest with an AK.
Yeah. The irony of the fact that it was U.S. equipment and U.S. ingenuity that was more effective in harming the enemy is not lost on you at this point.
I don't know. There's plenty of scenarios where we can show that green tip is just not that good of a round.
Yeah.
An AK round's more effective. You know, in Somalia, that green tip was so hot, it was cutting through those guys, and they'd have to shoot them like, well, I mean, it sounds ridiculous now. I mean, it sounded like a lot to me before to have to shoot somebody 8 times.
They had to shoot him 28 times.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it sounded ridiculous.
Shoot him 28. That's almost a magazine change right there.
It is a magazine. All right, so you come in. This is a 12-foot room. So if these guys, even if they're flush against the wall, there's the end of their barrel. I mean, that's 10 feet, 8 feet away from you.
Yeah, the whole
when you make entry
was inside of 10 feet. So yeah, they were in a half moon. 3 of them were standing up, pointing their rifles at me, and our jackpot was still sitting, pointing a pistol at me. And so I come off my pivot foot, and I enter the room with my rifle on fire, the finger out of the trigger well. And they still beat me. They still beat me to the trigger. I never got a round off of that rifle. And I didn't find out until 5 months later when we did an AAR on this, that I had walked around that house with a rifle hanging around my neck with a suppressor on it, banging between my knees, and I didn't even know it was there.
And that's a part of the story that we're not going to gloss over. The fact that we've just already alluded to the fact that you got shot 27 times, 16 of them actually into your body. And then there's another part of the story where you go, when I was walking around later. So I want to come back to that, because if anybody's listening, they're like, wait a minute, this cat got shot 16 times plus another 11 in the body armor. Oh, and what do you mean you walking around the house later with your M4? So I definitely want to come back to that, because again, it's the insanity. I've heard you say before that you can't believe it when you tell this story. And so I know other people listening to it.
No, I say I was there and don't believe it.
Yeah, I was there and I still can't believe it. Right.
I have
all right. So
very vivid memories of it. It all went slow-mo on me, like in the Matrix, like no shit Matrix, which has happened to me multiple times in my life. I'm trying to figure out how to do it on purpose. It only happens when I'm getting ready to die for some reason.
Don't try and recreate it then.
Just let it happen now.
No, there's very small percentage of people on the face of the planet that could hit a 95 mile an hour fastball. Right. And the guys that can do it say they can see the ball spin. They can count the threads on the ball.
Right. Yeah. And right. You talk to the A-Rods of the world. They say when it leaves the pitcher's hand,
you've got to swing.
And there's something
you got to
right.
swing.
And like if you, one of the guys that's
sports science
sports science guy. He's done a great podcast and some other interviews talking about how people recognize and are able to train their brain, that physiological change to recognize, and, the great hitters of the world say when it leaves that pitcher's hand and you have whatever 0.8 of a second to make a decision, that they're already made a decision to swing or not yet.
I did hear kill cliff can make you hit a fastball. 95 mile an hour.
We'll make sure you get your free 10 cases of Kill Cliff now for putting in that very natural plug for
right. Mike, we're sending you the Kill Cliff regardless. Right,
all right. So
when we're in the military, we're military free fall qualified. We got to go to HAPS, high altitude physiology training, and they are teaching now a lot about nutrition. And when you change atmospheres up or down, partial pressures of foods and the gases in our bodies, their effects increase. And I mean, there's all kinds of stories out there right now with everything from high school athletes to Navy SEALs dying and it's associated with other sports drinks. That shit. That shit is so bad for you. It's a bunch of
garbage.
It's a bunch of synthesized poison, is what it is.
It really is, and they're packaging it and some of these young people out there, they're just drinking this absolute fucking garbage.
Great idea to put vodka in it.
Yeah, way to think that through. All right, so let's get back. So you go in the room.
Yeah. You're in the doorway. 4 guys. You say jackpot. That's the target bad guy that's leading this shit show, and he's on the ground with a pistol. So he's still armed, and then his other 3 henchmen are all armed with rifles.
Yeah.
And they start shooting at you. So kind of take us from there.
I lose my rifle. I transition to my pistol, and everything just goes straight Matrix for me. Everything's really slow. from the time it took me to draw my pistol and kill the guy down the left wall was probably less than 3 seconds. It seemed to me like it was a couple minutes. I mean, I had a conversation with myself. Yeah. I literally had to ask myself, "Are you getting shot?" I'm like, "Yeah, hell yeah, you're getting shot."
I heard you say in another interview before, and I think I even wrote it down there. You said, after I figured out I was getting shot, and for a guy who's been shot 0 times in my life,
one time before, I didn't know it hurt cows, but we were cow tipping, and I got shot with rock salt right into my jeans. I was a kid.
See, you didn't even know you were preparing yourself for this event later in life. You're out there tipping cows with a bunch of high school buddies.
My father made the SEAL teams really easy.
Yeah, you didn't even know you were preparing for life's later trials and tribulations. So for a guy who's been shot 0 times in my life, just to hear somebody say, after I figured out I was getting shot, what is that moment like? And I mean, besides the word surreal, like, what is it like when you're like, holy fuck, like, I've been training for this, like in the SEAL teams, or, you know, we're preparing for it to work through adversity, and you're like, I'm actually getting shot. Is there just like a moment where it's just, it still takes like a second to register?
No, it did. I had to ask myself. And then my thoughts went to my girls, you know, my wife and my 2 daughters. And I said, God, get me home to my girls. And I'm not a religious person. I'm more of a spiritual hippie at this point. I've actually even called myself a recovering Christian. But and then I got really mad. And I shot that dude down the left wall 5 or 6 times in the chest and in the face, and I watched him die. I watched him crumble to the ground as I was falling towards him, and I knew he was dead before I hit the ground, and I landed right next to him. So I landed on my left side. Like in the movies, they show people getting shot and like thrown backwards. No, my legs just came out from underneath me. I lost control of my legs, and I fell forward. So I landed next to that guy. The guy in the center of the room had pulled the pin on the grenade, and he was trying to run out of the room to hit the guys in the train, and I shot him in the head, and he fell down to the ground and blew up. Knocked me out.
You're already on the ground? You're on the ground at this time?
Yeah.
Or you're like on your way to the ground?
No, I'm on the ground. And
all right. So he's trying to run out. He's still in the room. Now, this is a 12 by 12 room, again, or 12 by 8, whatever. It's a tiny room. If anybody can imagine, like just the average size apartment bedroom, you're in there with 4 dudes, like just the noise, the smoke, the look of the.
I had complete auditory exclusion. I had hundreds of rounds were fired in that room. I'm not going to suggest it for anybody else, but I sweat too much to wear iPro.
Yeah.
And the hearing protection they have right now is a hell of a lot better. I couldn't wear it back then. So all I had was an earbud in. I had no hearing protection, and I had complete auditory exclusion.
And for those who are listening, auditory exclusion just is we're talking about when the physiological change where the body under high stress will actually isolate that sound of gunfire, where you could actually still hear somebody talking to you, like, you know, a second later in a normal voice, but yet you've had hundreds of rounds fired off at point blank close range to your head, and yet you can still hear it.
Well, what's funny about that is I got to go get hearing aids now because of my last job. I lit off an AK-47 with blanks in a concrete room.
Oh.
And I forgot to put a hearing pro in, and it hurt. I was being a role player that night. I even tried to hang it out of the window, and it still hurt. And
from the guy who got blown up from that. From the guy who got blown up and shot and goes, you know, when I fired off those blanks, that really hurt.
Yeah,
it did.
Yeah. So be warned. So you're falling to the ground. You shot.
I'm already on the ground. I'm already on the ground. Yeah. One of the other guys, and this was a turnover operation. So we had like our normal guys, our Iraqi scouts, you know, our interpreter, a worthless dog that was we borrowed from the Marine Corps. We didn't have a very good dog program at that point. And
Sort of a mascot.
And I think you guys have talked to Jay Redmond. Yeah, so his troop was replacing us, so we had some of his guys there. Their first op in town was like the worst gunfight we saw the whole time we were there. I kind of felt.
And this was one of you. This was one of your outgoing ops before you guys come home, and this is their incoming. This is intro. Yeah. Welcome to the country.
Yeah, we were about a week and a half out. We had already half of our troop had already been flown home.
Wow.
We were just doing all the turnover stuff. So one of those guys had raked the window right up on over top of me. There was a window. So you got the window on that wall, the dead guy, the first guy I killed, and I'm laying right next to him. And Chris rakes that wall. I didn't even know a grenade went off until months later. And the reason half the guys, it's amazing 10 people can see the same damn thing and see 10 different things. My citation's inaccurate. They give me credit for saving 6 women and children that were supposedly in the room that gunfight was in. The guy that wrote that looked past Clark, who was already dead, and the 6 women and children were on the other side of him in a totally different room.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
If they would have been in that room, they'd all been dead.
Yeah. So I think we've almost skipped past it. So you shoot this guy in the head who's trying to run out in the hallway and detonate this grenade with the rest of the Iraqi scouts.
So Chris raked the window, and he saw him. Nobody actually saw me go in that room. Only Iraqi scouts saw me go in that room. No SEALs. And Chris raked the window and saw the guy get shot in the head, fall to the ground. He watched the grenade roll across the room and blow up. So when I'm unconscious, guys, SEALs now are trying to get in the room, and there's still 2 guys in there with AK-47s just sawing up the door jamb.
You don't even know the grenade went off in that same room where, and again, you're below the window, so maybe they don't even see you, right? But they see the grenade go off, and they know they're getting shot at by 2 other guys who I think the most bewildering thing.
When I was unconscious, they came over and shoved a pistol in my body armor and shot me twice in the back, and then they shot me twice in the ass.
So to set that stage, so you fall down, you shoot the guy who has the grenade, you shoot him in the head, he drops dead, and actually the grenade then goes off because he's now dead, doesn't have a chance to get out in the hallway. The grenade goes off. Miraculously, it knocks you unconscious, but the other 2 guys survive the grenade concussion and continue to fire their AKs. Again, just the whole thing, the whole story is just so bewildering, right?
To me, like I said, I didn't know until like 5 months later when we sat down and did the AAR that a grenade had gone off in the room. I was probably unconscious for no more than 2 minutes. And by the time that they had decided that they couldn't get in that room, they were pulling back. They were leaving the house when I woke up. And when I woke up, I still had my pistol in my hand. I was still laying on my left side. And there's 2 guys on the other side of the room up against the wall shooting over top of me through that window that the guy's leaving.
So they're just assuming at this point you're dead. There's no possible
Nobody saw me go in there. Only Iraqi.
I'm talking about the other guys remaining in the room.
Yeah, the 2 assholes with the AKs.
The reason why I say I believe they shot me when I was unconscious is because I got 2 holes in my back that I had 2 rounds go through my scapula. So the only 2 bones got hit. My right scapula and my left thumb almost got shot off at the middle joint. Everything else was soft tissue. Okay, tangent. I just forgot where the hell I was.
Yeah. So which again, just the whole thing. So they're against the wall. They're shooting. They come in. The grenade goes off.
Yeah.
At some point,
I wake up from the grenade blast, and
let me stop you there if I can.
Okay.
So it's because you fall down. You shot the one dude down the left wall, and then you shoot the guy in the head and he detonates. You get knocked out. These other 2 assholes, one guy must at some point come off the wall, come over, shoot you in the body armor and the ass.
No, he stuck it in my body armor because
okay.
There's no holes in the body armor where there's holes in my back.
Yeah, they don't line up.
Yeah.
Oh,
So he shoots you. He shoots you in the body and the 2 in the ass. You had said, and again, we'll come back to that because we'd said before we went on air that there's a funny story to that. And then he retreats back to the wall and continues shooting at the team guys that are retreating with his other buddy who's sitting on the wall with the AKs.
Yeah. So when I woke up, that's what I woke up to. 2 guys shooting AKs over top of me through the window, 10 feet away.
And are you like?
So I
wait,
re-engaged.
what the fuck is going on?
And I ran the magazine dry, and I did a magazine change. Because I mean, I put like 6 rounds in the first dude. I mean, guys make jokes at it. You know, I was never really the best pistol shot, but there's not a whole lot of us that have actually had to kill people with a damn pistol. If you're using grenades and pistols, you're in a bad situation.
That's a bad day.
Okay, tangent. God, I need somebody to direct me more. Yeah, so I wake up to those 2 guys shooting AKs. I run the magazine dry, do a magazine change. They eventually realize I'm shooting at them. They start shooting at me. It hits the foot of the magazine. I actually got that here. It blows the hand grips off the pistol. I clear the malfunction. Tap rack, bang, works, and I kill those 2 dudes.
And you reload the gun with a fresh magazine full of rounds, and you continue killing the second guy.
Yeah. So I first magazine got me through the first guy, the grenade dude. I woke up from the grenade blast. I empty that mag, do a mag change. Shoot at them again. They start shooting at me. It hits the foot of the magazine. It blows the hand grips off the pistol. I could feel the springs in my hands. I clear the malfunction and kill those 2 dudes. And I'm having trouble getting that company to work with me.
The company of the pistol.
Yeah.
The manufacturer of the pistol. You are a testament to the solid craftsmanship of that pistol. We'll
if one of those Iraqi guys lived, right? One of those 2 guys lives, and he's doing a podcast. His interview is going to be, so we shot this fucker 27 times. I put it under his body armor, pulled the trigger twice. He wakes up at some point and then kills my buddy. I mean, these guys have got to be like, what the hell do we have to do to this guy?
Yeah. Do you think there's a point where you maybe should have let that one guy live just if for no other reason he could go around and the war would have been won? Because he'd be like, yo, listen, do not fight these fucking dudes. They don't die.
I think I just got really lucky.
All right. That's it.
All right, your humility. Okay. All right, we'll go with that. Your humility is it's an endearing and appealing quality. I appreciate that. So now you've killed all 4 guys in the room.
I get up on my
U.S. forces. Yeah, you get up on your knees, right?
Everybody's gone. They're outside.
Meaning U.S. forces have retreated outside.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of lessons learned since 9/11 with JTACs. I mean, I used to call for fire, and I'm old enough to have seen battleships shoot stuff. They shoot something that's about the size of a Volkswagen over the top of your head.
Yeah.
And,
so for those that are listening, JTAC and call for fire, we're talking about the guys who are radioing back to either to the ships or the aircraft overhead saying, hey, come drop bombs or missiles on a place that we need you to kill a lot of people.
Yeah, we've definitely matured on that. I guess you got to train to the lowest common denominator, because there was a bunch of dumb people dropping bombs on themselves and other people. Didn't seem like it was that hard to me before. Now we got to go to school for it. But we had a Spectre gunship that night, so that was the plan. They had the aircraft prepped. They went to their minimum safe distance for what they were going to use, probably 30 millimeter. And if you've never seen video of a Spectre gunship, you should go YouTube it and watch it. It's incredible.
Yeah, we'll add a link to this.
We'll bring a video of that up.
But one of the things that we've also learned is that you don't drop bombs if you don't know where everybody is. And it was a train wreck. They were taking fire from outside. Guys were all over the place. One of the guys found our interpreter curled up crying in a ditch. Clark was dead in another room. We had one dead Iraqi scout. So that's another reason why they didn't know anybody else had gone in that room. When the SEALs got in that foyer, my number 2, they were all Iraqi scouts behind me. My number 2 guy got shot in the chest. Body armor worked, knocked him out of the room, and still number 3 went and he got killed in the doorway. He got hit in the chest and it killed him. It's unfathomable. They're shooting at me. One guy behind me gets hit in the chest, lives. Number 3 gets hit in the chest, gets killed, and a bullet passes through 2 doorways and hits Clark in the neck, and it pops his carotid artery. And that was all through those 2 doorways.
And
I get shot 27 times in weird places.
And including we've talked about the ones that went in your body, but and for anybody who's listening, like getting your body armor, especially with an AK round, which has a lot of energy, and it's not, your body armor is designed to take 1, maybe 2 rounds, right? They make great body armor, but even then, its ability to take multiple rounds, it's not designed for that. So just the idea that it took 11 rounds. Here we go. For those of you who are watching on YouTube. This is actually Mike's shadow box of his body armor, and kind of tell us what we have there.
Walk us through.
You have some of the bullet frags, right?
Yeah. So try not to touch this computer. It does all kinds of weird stuff. This is all the fragmentation that they pulled out of it. It's all bullet fragmentation. The little scorpion thing. That's how the guys like to. Our Iraqi scouts wanted to be called scorpions, so we helped them make a patch and everything. So this is my front plate.
Wow.
And my rear plate.
Jesus Christ.
So the company took it apart layer by layer, and it's so cool how they did it, where they somehow infused. Before they took it apart, they put some kind of epoxy in there, and it held everything in place. I have it framed. Yeah.
Wow. It must be surreal to look at that, know that that's not designed, that body armor is not designed to take 11 rounds. And to know that, again, I don't know how I don't know how you would describe it. Body armor is not designed to do that, but yet other people can get hit with 1 round and in the wrong place, wrong time, and it can just it can be the end of them.
This round also fell out of it.
If you can put that up on that.
There it is.
And so those of you who are watching on the video, if you're looking on the if you're listening to the podcast, get on the video if you get a chance, and you can take a look at the size of this round that was taken out of Mike's body armor.
That's a 7.62 from AK-47.
Yeah. And
it's still intact.
Yeah, it got flattened a little bit. You can see the rifling on it. Where's the camera on this thing?
Wow, look at that. And you can just tell by Mike's finger, you can get a reference point of how big that round is. And the guys, the kinetic energy brings with it.
Engraved it with, I don't have my reading glasses. I think it's it's definitely my name, Foxtrot Platoon Chief. But I got shot with that thing inside of 10 feet, and it didn't do anything to it. Like quantum physics stuff. I can't explain it.
It's garbage. It's all made up. So when you come back outside and your team guys, you got some Iraqis, I'm sure, are out there. They've got to be blown away. The fact that that's probably bad words, but they've got to be super surprised.
Yeah, is that a poor choice of words? We say they've got to be blown away by. Yeah,
you were blown away. So you come walking out, and they got.
Well, no, there was a lot more that went on. So after all violent action stopped, I got up, I stood up, and I asked for status in the house, and because they asked for status in the house also before when I was unconscious, I couldn't respond. My radio was shot to shit anyway. So when I finished killing those last 2 guys, I stood up and asked for status in the house. One of my Iraqi scouts came in, and I put him on the front door, told him to kill anybody that came to the front door. I still don't really realize I'm left alone in the house. I don't even think I actually realized it.
So you're asking status to nobody at that point.
Yeah, so I come put him on the front door, and I come back to both of those doorways. I find Clark. He's gone. Still got a smile on his face. The 6 women and children in there are screaming. And I use my white light on my pistol, and I tell them to shut the hell up. And I must have looked scary as hell. They got really quiet really fast.
Yeah.
And I get deeper in the house, and I find 2 more Iraqi scouts that are holding on 2 detainees. I check the flex cuffs on them. I leave one in there, Iraqi scout, to watch the 2 detainees. I bring the other guy out to watch the women and children, and then I try to make comms.
And let me just stop you if I can, Mike. It's just, again, because the surrealness of this. So you had said in the doorway, you recognize you're getting shot. Now you go down. You don't know that you've also been grenaded. And now you've come up and you've killed 4 dudes. And rather than like just, lay there and scream for help, you actually get up and continue working the mission. Do you recall having a sense of like, hey, I've been shot. I might want to like deal this, or is it just like the fog? And again, we use that term fog of war, and anybody's listening, you go, how is Mike possibly doing this? And how do people not know where he is? And how did people not know that Clark is down and stuff like that? And we just use that term of fog of war, just the absolute chaos of people. And you had said, you referenced earlier, like when you train for something and then you go in and you don't realize that your interpreter is going to be in a ditch, sucking his thumb and crying, and the dog's going to be useless and shit like that. Is there a point where you sort of have an epiphany about like the gravity of what's going on, or are you still you're just going through the mission has to be done?
I never had a thought that I was going to die. I knew I'd been shot, but if somebody would have told me where I'd been shot, maybe I would have just sat down for a while. I don't know.
Mike, you've been given a vasectomy with an AK.
I knew I'd been shot. I had no awareness of where I'd been shot. It all felt like one big pain. I couldn't distinguish anything other than 2 pains. I had a really bad pain in my pelvis, and I was having a lot of trouble breathing. So the rounds that hit the body armor broke a bunch of ribs, and I had a contusion on my right lung that was filled up with blood. And I thought I had a sucking chest wound. So when I finally get the guys back in, they actually try to treat me for a sucking chest wound because I got 2 bullet holes in my back. Luckily, it wasn't a sucking chest wound. It was just a really bad bruise.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, you really have to count your lucky stars then, Mike, because you didn't have a sucking chest wound. So there's
that would have been worse.
Jesus.
Would have been worse.
So you're finally outside, or the guys come in.
No,
and
so
now
where I said earlier, I couldn't tell that I had my rifle banging between my knees. Well, now it was time for him to make comms and try to find out where everybody was. And I keyed up. I couldn't hear anything. And then I feel my earbud clicking my shoulder. And I put my earbud in and I key up and it's a solid tone. Look down at my radio and I don't even know how it gave me a solid tone. It got shot so many times. Jesus. So I had to take Clark's radio off of him. And then I went back in the other room and called the guys in. Deconflicted the front door. And they came in, and that's probably the first time I realized how messed up I was, because when they came in, they looked at me and they were like, when somebody looks at you like when you're all jacked up, you're like, oh, great, man. Thanks for the reassurance. That's when I was like, man, I must be really fucked up. when I saw the look on their face. I mean, that room, literally hundreds of rounds were fired in that room. They didn't know that I had gotten up and walked around. The place where I had landed next to that guy, they said there were so many bullet holes in the wall that you could see the outline of the bodies up against the wall.
Jesus.
When I went to take Clark's radio off of him, I couldn't turn it was an embitter. So it's got that neural net on the top, and I had so much blood on my hands, it felt like it was slippery. So I took my right glove off, and when I went to take my left glove off, my thumb was hanging in my palm.
God.
Just sometime in that gunfight, my thumb almost got shot off, but I left that glove on. Was almost later pulled off by a guy that was assisting me to the helicopter because I walked to the helicopter. And it wasn't because I was trying to be macho. It was because I hurt so bad that I knew if they tried to pick me up, they were going to hurt me worse. And they didn't know I was walking around the house. When I got the body armor off, I felt like I had like 500 pounds on my back. I just felt really heavy. And dog just farted.
We needed that levity in the middle of that story.
Right. Yes. Thanks for getting. All right, so you get this thing off. It feels like it weighs a ton.
I got it. Was there any like Hollywood style like Schwarzenegger quotes in there where you're like, "Fuck you, give me my shit back,"
not till later. Yeah, so I heard him say 2 minutes out for the medevac. Somebody said pick up Mike, and I was like, don't touch me. I'll walk out with you if I need help. I'll throw my hand over your shoulder. And the guy I was with, it was a plowed field, so I was kind of stumbling around a little bit. So I threw my hand over his shoulder, and he reaches up and almost yanks my thumb off. That's what he grabs.
Yeah, of course he does.
So we get on the bird, and one of the other medics that just got there is on the bird with me, and I thought he was with me because he was a medic, but he had been shot in the arm and he had a tourniquet on. And it's funny, I've talked to the air doc that was on here. He was like, I knew that guy was going to be good when he was trying to hit me, and he was yelling at me. Because the only thing he did for me on that aircraft was cut all my clothes off and stick his knee in every bullet hole I had. I was trying to throw him out.
This is the doc on the medevac aircraft.
Yeah, he cut all my clothes off. So when we land, I see the guy that got shot in the arm. I don't know he's shot in the arm, and he's trying to, with the air doc, open up an Israeli litter for me, and they can't do it because Israeli litter needs 2 people with 2 good arms, and you need to push and pull and yank on that thing. And I watched them.
Yeah, and that's a kind of stretcher. You're saying that they're trying to get Israeli litter, just a kind of stretcher they're trying to get you on when you land.
Yeah, but the only thing I got on my body right now is boots, and I'm watching them like 2 monkeys fucking a football trying to put this thing together, and a golf cart pulls up with a big flatbed on it. And I was like, well, I guess that's for me. So I jump off naked. I go behind Chris and I slap him, tell him last man, and throw myself on the golf cart. And they drive me over from the airfield to the hospital, put me on a gurney, and I get mobbed by like, I don't know how many people it was, 5, 6 people start rolling me around, poking fingers in me and calling out, gunshot wound, left thigh, right arm, left arm. And the last thing I remember, they said gunshot wound to the scrotum. And I made a joke. I said, don't worry about that one. I already had a vasectomy. And I passed out.
See, that's Hollywood. That's Hollywood level shit. That's Schwarzenegger. Like, I'll be back. That's the real life version of I'll be back. Yeah.
So that was in Baghdad. They cleaned me out. I think they threw a colostomy bag on me. Got shot in the stomach. It went through my bladder. I had a colostomy bag for about a year, and I had a stent in my bladder, which comes out your urethra. It's about this long.
Oh.
No pain meds. It's miserable. It's like if STDs hurt that bad, nobody would have sex.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I'll have to show you a picture of that because that's
we're good.
The funny thing.
Yeah. No.
I did not know. I did not know I had a bullet in my hip until I went in to get that thing pulled out. I knew I'd been shot twice in the butt, but it was like 5 months later I had to go get the stent pulled out of my bladder. and they take an X-ray. An X-ray tech comes in and was like, "Hey, did you know there's a bullet in your hip?" I didn't know.
Jesus.
And that was 2007. Last year, I was at a chiropractor, and I usually don't go to chiropractors. I don't like them. I like massage better. And he takes the X-ray. Yeah. He takes an X-ray of me, and the bullet had migrated all the way up into my belly fat. I'd actually been feeling it. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was like a tip off one of the tubes or something that they had stuck in my stomach.
And for those who are listening, it just and if you've never and I have never had that happen, but for those who don't know about how bullets, when you get shot, sometimes the body will try and naturally get rid of it by moving it around to a place, and it's just this weird phenomenon, right? So you had been, and this is one of the bullets where they had, when you had been knocked unconscious with a grenade. What we think, right, is that it was one of those bullets had shot you in the butt, and then your body migrates it around over the course of a year. For those of you who are watching on the video, this is again another one of Mike's collection of bullets pulled from either his body or his body armor. So this is the bullet that had gone in your butt, in your ass cheek, and your body, just again through the miracle of biology and physiology, had actually migrated around into your gut.
And anything that enters your body is going to do that too. If you've ever been in the desert and you run into a patch of cactus, a lot of times that thing.
Who hasn't?
Yeah, well, it's going to travel up your leg or wherever. So I'm gonna.
So
I got actually.
Let's actually.
Go ahead.
Let's see him.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say. So tell us about that story while you're showing us the picture of the X-ray. Actually, tell us that story about, because there is a funny part, and I know the listeners will enjoy it. So tell us about. So this migrates around. You find out, or take us back to the chiropractor and sort of how that bullet fragment went from your gut to now on a piece of necklace.
Okay, so
it's jewelry,
and that's
it's a jewelry.
And the AK round is where I got the idea to do that. And I think this one's even cooler. It kind of reminds me of that. I had this Rolex watch in my ass for 7 years in the Hanoi Hilton. Okay, so get shot in the butt in 2007, 5 months after the incident, because I got shot in the stomach. I had a stent in my bladder, and it's about a foot-long thing with curly things on it. I don't understand it. Someone kept my bladder from leaking because I got shot in the bladder. So this is 2007, and take note of, can you see it?
Oh, I see it.
Oh yeah. There's what appears to be a large bullet fragment just above your pelvic bone.
Yeah, so I didn't know that bullet was there until I went and got an X-ray to see if they could pull the stent out of my bladder. And then,
which was like 5 months later, you said.
Yeah,
7 months. 7 months.
This is last year. You can see, kind of looks like it dropped down the hip. Because the bullet went in my butt, kind of traveled over that crook in your hip, and then this is the side profile.
So, there it is. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Where's the camera?
So right, it's right on the. It's there. Appears to be almost just right under the skin, right?
Yeah, I was actually grabbing it. I could grab it.
So that's like your gut where that large piece is hanging out.
Yeah.
Where that bullet piece is. So you can feel it in there, and so tell us, how does it get from there to now a piece of necklace? You went to a certified board surgeon.
No, I got friends that are medics, 18 Deltas, and on a dinner break, we cut it out.
a dinner break.
Yeah.
So all right. So were you guys drinking at this point, or what's?
No, we had to go back to work. So, and the irony of there is, I went back to I was working in a job where I was teaching CQC to the SEAL teams again. So I was the straw that broke the camel's back to change TTPs in the SEAL teams. Just a different way of doing close quarters combat. And police departments are doing it too. It's no big secret. There's different ways to do 10 different ways to do the CQC.
CQC being for those of us that listen, it just the SWAT kind of how you enter a building and try and get bad guys.
Yeah, close quarters combat. That's just how you move, how you flow through the house. And the event that happened to me actually changed. It didn't change it because the TTP that's used now is I can find it in a 1980 Army FM. So
it's come full circle.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, it isn't let them shoot you until they're dry,
Yeah.
wake up, and then kill them. That's not how the plan goes.
That's effective. It doesn't work all the time.
Clearly.
Apparently, yeah, apparently.
Right. You'll walk away with nice jewelry after.
So we had talked a little bit before we came on the air. You were on the jump team for a couple years before this, right? You were on the leapfrogs, the Navy SEAL parachute team. You had a couple cutaways.
The most dangerous job I had in the Navy. People shot at me.
Yeah, ironically, right? So you had a couple cutaways, which those who don't listen to cutaways, where you open your parachute and it doesn't open properly, so you have to cut away and go to your backup, or what we call your reserve parachute. You had a couple of those, and now you're shot 16 times in the body, 11 times in body armor, which is not supposed to stop 11 rounds. Do you you have cheated death so profoundly? Does that change your mind? Like, do you even look before you cross the street now? Right. Or do you just know that like you're invisible? Like I envision you like cutting vegetables and watching TV at the same time because you're like, you know what? Fuck this. I can handle it. Like I imagine like if your wood chipper gets clogged, you just stick your hand down in there and just like unclog it like with just barehanded. Like, yeah, fuck this. Nothing can get me.
I'm very safety conscious, just not very risk adverse.
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, all joking aside, you have to question like that. I mean, that's got to be a mental thing. Like, I got shot 27 times, and yet here I am. I've cut away 9 times, yet here I am. I mean, that's got to be. You got to wake up every day like, dude, I'm here for a reason, man.
I'm fully aware of my mortality.
Yeah,
and
right.
God hasn't talked to me yet, so I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah. Wow. I think he did. The fact that you're talking and in general, it says something. So,
and so that's actually probably a good segue, if I can, because you retired as a senior chief from the teams, and I don't want to just skip forward, but it's an important part of your story. You retired as a senior chief. Now you're a guy, and so there's a couple components to this incident that have profoundly changed lives. One being you mentioned they changed the TTPs, which is tactics, techniques, and procedures for how the SEAL teams now go in and get bad guys. And the other one is what you did afterwards, right? So you took what happened to you and used it as a catalyst to help other folks. You want to talk a little bit about that? I think it's an important part of your story, what you were doing for 7 years there.
To me, that's probably where I've learned more about myself and people in the world was that job. I found out that I was a better social worker than I was a Navy SEAL.
So you went on to do what at SOCOM for Special Operations Command? You went on to after retirement.
I was a wounded warrior advocate. They changed the names a couple of times. So wounded warrior advocate for Special Operations Command, not Wounded Warrior Project. I don't like to have things mistaken with Wounded Warrior Project. Wounded Warrior Project can stand alone, and everybody else can.
Yeah. So Wounded Warrior Care, you're an advocate, an advocate for other wounded warriors, helping them deal with PTSD, TBIs, just injuries.
It was everything. So early on, because I got out of the Navy in 2010, took that job as soon as I got out. Actually, the month before I got out, and over that period of almost 7 years, I probably dealt with close to 400 people, dealing with the worst combat injuries that we've seen come out of the country, out of these wars, to ALS, cancer, there's, some psychological issues, PTSD. It was an education that I don't think I could have got anywhere else. It was really good for me for like the first 4.5, 5 years, and I spent the last 2 years trying to quit.
Just because it was too much after a while? It was just too heavy?
Much.
Yeah.
It was. It's easier to break stuff than to fix it. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it did. It just started getting to me. I had a lot of people that I was assigned to, that I worked with, that amazed me. Maybe I would be more amazed with myself if I didn't have that job. But I know people that have been shot in the head. I know quad ants. I know people that have had cancer for 15 years. Like, all my friends are gimps.
Yeah, and just to be clear, so since this, Mike is actually, you've done an Ironman, is that right?
Yeah, that's kind of worked. The only reason I have any kind of a footprint right now was all the nonprofit stuff I did, and I did a half Ironman down in Florida for a brain injury center that has since closed down. And you know, funny things just happen around me. I had a buddy that called me. He was like, "Hey, I got this movie star friend that wants to do this half Ironman with you," and he was like, "It's Chris Pratt." I'm like, "Who's that?"
Wow.
You mean the chunky kid from Parks and Rec? He's doing a half Ironman?
He had to do an Ironman to stop being so fat.
Yeah. Well, he actually got pretty ripped when he was at 0 Dark 30, when he actually played a team guy, ironically enough.
Yeah, that's why. Jared, my buddy Jared Shaw, he was there that night that this happened, this operation, and now he works with Chris in some manner, probably to keep him from getting fat again.
It's a wise investment.
Kind of fat guy.
Yeah. So you actually did do the half Ironman with Chris then?
Yeah.
That's
awesome. I didn't know who he was at the time. I had to come after that Ironman. I had to go watch Guardians of the Galaxy. It's funny. I hadn't seen it advertised, and I was like, "It's got a talking raccoon in it. I'm not watching it."
Yeah, it's ridiculous, right? But it's a great movie. I thought the same thing. I'm not a sci-fi guy. I'm like, dude, it's got a tree and a raccoon. I'm out, but it's good.
Yeah, I love that tree. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Chris, man. He's a good dude. He's an unusual personality in the world that he lives in. So
yeah.
Right. Yeah, in that Hollywood sphere, right?
Yeah.
And you've written a book, kind of accounting some of the stuff you've gone through, correct?
It is. It's a memoir. Said earlier that the SEAL teams are easy because my father. My father was an alcoholic. He was diagnosed schizophrenic, medically retired from the Navy as a schizophrenic.
Wow.
Very abusive, very violent childhood. I mean, the guy used to tie us to poles and beat us.
Good God.
Jesus Christ.
So the SEAL teams are easy. Resiliency is built through trauma, physical and psychological. Now, I'm not saying you need to go out there and like do horrible things to your psyche. But if you sit on your ass and eat Twinkies all the time, your resiliency level is going to be pretty low. You got to get out there and practice it. So,
hey, Mike, a lot of people, and just let me know if we're going too deep on it, but a lot of people, they crumble from a childhood like that. Some you either thrive later on in life, just get conditioned through those types of things and come out good on the other end. But clearly you haven't, and it's been really good for you in the long run. What do you think the difference is from somebody?
I've had my issues. Yeah, I mean, it's in my book. I mean, I think it's actually one of the things I was able to discover because I'm a skeptic at everything.
Okay.
When I first saw EDMR, I'm like, you people are ridiculous. That shit ain't gonna work.
Which is what? What's EDMR?
EDMR is a treatment for trauma, for PTSD.
Right, sure.
It's don't even. You're gonna have to Google what EDMR is. But what the concept is that it you stimulate the eyes to resemble REM sleep. And then you take, when people have PTSD, they have a thought process that leads them to a progressively bad thought process. It just leads to the end state's always bad. So EDMR can get you to the point where you can still have that thought, but it doesn't bring you down that road. It doesn't overlay.
Right. It doesn't trigger the same negative thoughts, right? You're actually able to replace that with a positive associations. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm. And it's covered by insurance now, which means medical evidence proves. But things like that I saw, I was such a skeptic, and I just got to the point. I was like, "Hey, if the placebo works, give them the whole bottle."
Right.
This shit, because I love placebo. That means we heal ourselves, and there's all kinds of studies that talk about placebo.
Yeah, your brain's a powerful thing, man. So whether it's happening like chemically or from however it works, if it works, man, that's a positive.
You're
I'm more holistic now. I went through a bad bout of depression, and it was physiologically driven. I had no good flora in my stomach. So coming from a layman's explanation of food goes into your stomach, gets all ground up, digested to the point where it goes into the intestines pull out the vitamins and minerals. I didn't have the flora in my stomach to break down the food. I was completely empty of vitamin D, B12, and my hormones were all screwed up, and it was driven by diet. I fixed it. I would talk about that in my book too. It's not a Navy SEAL shoot 'em up book. I say luckily I got shot 27 times because that's the eye catcher. But there's all kinds of stuff in this book, from child abuse, and how I was able to manage that. How that got me ready for the SEAL team. So it's about trauma and building resiliency. And I'm not somebody that gives advice, so I just kind of explain my point of view, because I'm the last person that should be telling anybody you should do this.
But you speak a lot about it, right? I mean, you speak publicly about this. This is something that you're pretty passionate about, correct?
I am. I've got a couple ideas for nonprofits. One of them is definitely going to include this, what I think healthcare should be, and that's a doctor should be looking at your pee, poo, and blood every 24 months to tell you how you should adjust your lifestyle. And, epigenetics, our bodies. I see guys in the SEAL teams who are incredible athletes, but like half of them be on keto. And I'm like, how do you know keto is good for you? Maybe you're doing something bad. And it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah. But it's nice to start seeing this homeopathic way of living matching up with military. I don't know. Traditionally, that's not the way they would go. And even meditation. I've talked to a lot of guys too that are military guys that are let's just think about their thought process.
Right. Yoga, meditation, the stuff that, going back, we're all around the same age. The stuff for us coming in early into the military, yoga, meditation, that was touchy-feely hipster shit. And now we recognize that it's a part of that holistic growth, like you said, Josh.
Yeah.
Well, we've all, in the military, you'll hear guys be like, oh, they want us to go overseas and be monsters and come back and be gentlemen. Like somehow they don't get the fact that the same discipline it requires to be that monster is the same discipline it requires to be that so-called gentleman back here. Like bar fights and shit. I mean, why go pay $8 for a beer and get into a bar fight? Prove
that being mentally healthy is just as much work as the physical side a lot of times.
I mean, ancient warrior cultures.
Yeah.
Savages.
You
great warriors go out and kill people in heinous ways and then they had a way to come back. Mindfulness practices. They had traditions and ways to come back from that because it's not normal. There are some, and friends that are sociopaths that are in that business. It's directed that way because there are some.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But most of us aren't sociopaths, and that shit's not normal.
Yeah. That it's like a pressure cooker, man. And if you don't learn a way to start releasing some of that pressure when you're back, and I'm saying this not from personal experience, but any trauma, everyone's dealt with something, and I think there's a certain age in a person's life. If you haven't dealt with those things in your past, they start showing up in really negative ways in your life.
Yeah, it will cause illness and disease is inflammation.
Correct. Yeah.
And stress will cause inflammation.
Yeah.
Shit, I hate to admit the fact that I'm looking at 50 years old here in a couple of years, and I'm just figuring out what my daddy issues were. My codependency problems and
100%.
I mean,
Josh and I speak about that pretty regularly. I'm sorry.
We are everything we learn, all the constructs that we understand in the first 7 years.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of us
Josh and I actually. I'm sorry. I was going to say, Josh and I just, we do comedy and we do stand up and we like to have a good time on here, but we do speak pretty regularly, just even off camera, where we talk about, Josh and I both just, dealing with, just dealing, now in our mid 40s, trying to recognize some of the things that we've pushed down because of the machismo society or world that we lived in, or we tried to live in, and it's that false bravado, even though you are a resilient, tough guy. The military teaches you that, the communities you run in, but inherently you have to have an outlet, and you have to have an outlet where you can be vulnerable. You can be honest with yourself about your like Josh said, your childhood trauma. And
society tries to tell everybody that we're in a race against each other, and that we're not good enough. And I see that in a lot of dudes. Everybody's trying to prove something, which is another great thing for me, being shot 27 times. I mean,
yeah, right. Because everyone's trying to.
Yeah, that's kind of a trump card.
I had a chick call me a pussy the other day. Call me a pussy. Like, really?
Right.
I mean, I got nothing to prove. Go find somebody else that did what I did. Okay, there's my
I think your humility is actually one of the. And I have obviously the book's not out yet, but it's coming out, and I'm actually looking forward to reading it, because your humility, in all the other interviews I've seen you, and just here talking with you, your humility is one of the endearing and appealing qualities of the fact that a guy has been shot 27 times, and he just goes, yeah, man. Well, there's other people who are dealing with, there's a guy who had cancer for 15 years. He's a lot worse off. That humility is something that we can all learn from.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, I'm
glad I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I think I'm almost to the point where I don't give a shit what other people think. Almost.
That's a good place to be, man. And that's work to get there. There's something to be said about that.
Hey, before we go, we mentioned that you're doing some speaking on resiliency. We also, we know you're out there and you're actually doing some work for the Navy SEAL Foundation. Is that right?
Well, I've done a couple of their big events, New York, and I've done a handful of fundraisers with them. I've done some fundraising stuff with different Gold Star nonprofits. And I'm going to continue doing that, but I still got to pay my bills.
Yeah.
No doubt. We Kill Cliff is the longest standing continuous sponsor of the Navy SEAL Foundation. Obviously, Josh and I are big fans of not just the Navy SEAL Foundation, but all veteran service organizations. But we knew you were doing some speaking for that. Also, you getting out there, and again, it's part of your story that just makes your humility and it's such a great quality that you took what you learned or what happened to you and use that as a catapult to then help other people who are dealing for 7 years as a SOCOM wounded warrior advocate. And
hey, let's make sure we get the name of your book out there.
Yeah.
It's Perfectly Wounded. and it's ready for pre-order right now at perfectlywounded.com. There's a link on there that takes you to Amazon. My social media, I got my daughter's doing all my branding and my websites and stuff. So it's pretty awesome. The GI Bill paid
your
her to go
social
to college, and now I'm paying her to do work for me.
Good.
And your social media, where can we find you on social media?
So on social media, I've got a Facebook one. It's not open. On Instagram, it's Mike Day 5326.
Mike Day 5326 on Instagram. And we'll put that up here. We'll put that on the links here as well. But Mike Day 5326 and at perfectlywounded.com or on Amazon, you can find Perfectly Wounded. Hey, before we go, how old's your daughter now? You have two daughters. How old are they now?
I have two. I have one that's in Virginia Tech looking at being a veterinarian. She's in her second year of school. She did community college first, which is which every kid should do.
Right.
And the other one's a graphic designer. Well, not Virginia Tech. She's going to be 20 this year, and the other one's going to be 29.
And when they come around with boyfriends, I don't know if they're married, but when they come around boyfriends, I mean, do you even need to? Their boyfriends know your story. Are they automatically intimidated? Where you don't even have to like the old dad thing where you're cleaning your shotgun. You don't even have to.
You show them your body.
You literally have all of your bullets on your necklaces. Yeah.
No, I would just tell them that hey, she's very important to me, and if anything happens to her, I'll hold you completely responsible.
Yeah, there's four guys, one of whom I could have left alive, and he could tell you a story about how much I don't like when somebody tries to hurt me or my family.
Yeah, we can make somebody disappear real easy.
Yeah, and he means it.
Stuff,
so,
right?
Yeah, right.
Pig eats bones. My dog eats bones. You can get rid of her.
Yeah,
that way now. These dogs are on.
This is getting
on what is it
boyfriend
called?
diet.
Yeah, you just give them. She just eats the whole chicken, bones and everything.
All right, Mike. Listen, hey, we appreciate your time, man. I mean, just the story is amazing. You working through everything after the fact, the charity stuff, working through the childhood stuff. I think that's the stuff that's just as important as coming through and surviving what you did. So we appreciate your time. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. And if anybody has done it before us, it could be done again, right? So
That's it, baby.
You got that right. Awesome. Hey, thanks again, Mike.
All right, take it easy, guys. Thanks.
All right. See ya. That's it from us for the Kill Cliff Podcast. Hey, thanks to Mike Day for taking the time to sit down with us. Be sure to check out his book. Comes out June 9th. It's called Perfectly Wounded. You can find that on Amazon. And that's it from us. We shall see you in 2 weeks or possibly sooner. Who knows?